British Airways, EasyJet and Ryanair are heading to the High Court in a bid to overturn the government's quarantine policy.
Comes as Ryanair resumes operating more than 1,000 flights a day as the airline ramps up its schedule after the lockdown. Ryanair's chief executive, Michael O'Leary, joins us now. Very good morning to you. I understand, obviously, very difficult economic time. I'm no clearer. I'm not sure anyone's any clearer on the air bridges, the quarantine measures, and whether I'm supposed to book a flight with you right now.
Well, Susanna, good morning. It's always a pleasure to be brought on after the dogs and the deer. At least I know my place in the Good Morning Britain schedule. Look, there is no clarity. The government's making a mess of the whole thing. They've introduced this form-filling exercise about 2 weeks, which they call a quarantine. Nobody's being called. Nobody's filling in the forms correctly. But the good news is Ryanair is going back flying today. We have 1,000 flights today, more than 100 aircraft in the skies over Britain. The first wave have departed on time at all of our UK airports, and I'm pleased to say all of our passengers, all of our staff, and all of the people at airports wearing face masks, taking the sensible precautions to allow British families to go on holidays in July and August, and more importantly, hundreds of thousands of European visitors visit Britain coming from countries with lower R rates than the UK.
But let me ask you this, though, because the Foreign Office advice remains that you should not do this unless it's for essential work reasons. And there's a very important financial aspect to this, which is that you're not insured. If you fly against government advice not to fly, then I discovered this yesterday, tried to book some flights to France and was told, well, if you book them now, before this Foreign Office advice changes, your insurance is not valid.
It's probably true. I mean, Piers, the Foreign Office advice is going to change later on this week when they announced that, in a wave of publicity, air bridges to the European Union. Our case is going to the High Court on Friday. It's clear already the government is scrabbling around for defence. We're looking to see what the medical defence, the medical basis is for asking visitors to fill in a form, which the government then throws in a box in a darkened room and ignores. There isn't a medical defence for it. The quarantine is completely ineffective. And people visiting the UK from countries like Greece, Germany, with far, far lower R rates than the UK, pose no threat to public health.
But we've now got a spike in Leicester, which is rather similar to the spike we saw in Lisbon, which apparently may lead to Portugal not being included in the air bridges. And if you're Portuguese, you might well say, well, hang on, why is it people can't come here? Why are we able to go to the UK if a city like Leicester has gone back into lockdown as Lisbon's had to do?
I think there is a risk of that. I mean, the Greeks and the Poles, for example, are continuing to ban flights from the UK until about the 14th of July. But we expect the European Union will announce something later this week which will open all of the remaining skies across Europe. Remember, British families at this time of the year are not going to the cities. They're not going to Lisbon or to Barcelona. They're going to the beaches, Malaga, Faro. There's almost no COVID-19 in the Algarve or on the beaches of Spain. The large outbreaks were in the main cities of Madrid and Barcelona. So British families can go on abroad safe in the knowledge that it will be healthy. The airlines like Ryanair are taking all of the scientific measures, face masks, hand hygiene, etc., recommended by the WHO and the ECDC.
Your passengers, Michael, I mean, they will not be able to observe the 1 metre social distancing, will they? They'll be literally like 5 inches away from each other.
Well, we'll have about a 70% load factor, but that's why we're wearing mandatory face masks. And that is the acceptable, that is the recommended measure where social distancing isn't possible.
And you say mandatory face masks.
Yes.
Who enforces, if I take are you still serving food and drink on a Ryanair flight?
Water on board the aircraft, yes.
Right, so how do I drink that with a face mask on?
We need some common sense. We'll allow you to lower the face mask. You'll be sitting in your seat.
So actually, if somebody lowers their face mask, sneezes, coughs, while they haven't got their face mask on, it's pointless having the face masks, isn't it?
Well, it's not. I mean, the face mask, if you're wearing the face mask when you're boarding, when you're boarding the aircraft at the boarding gate, when you're mixing with other passengers, when you're sitting in an aircraft seat, in actual fact, the studies show if you do sneeze, the seat in front of you acts as a blockage. But now if we have 100% people wearing face masks, our cabin crew are wearing face masks, those are the measures that are recommended by both WHO and the ECDC to allow people to travel safely.
But the
on
truth
aircraft.
is, Michael, isn't it? The truth is, though, right, but the truth is, it's not risk-free, is it? I mean, you must accept it's not risk-free.
I do, Piers. So flying isn't risk-free. Driving your car isn't risk-free. Getting the London Underground isn't risk-free. But wearing face masks, with our staff and all of our passengers wearing face masks, is the way we minimise down to very small percentages the risk of spread of COVID.
What is the social distancing rule? Because we just saw footage inside one of the aircraft. I mean, everybody's just on top of each other.
But they're not on top of each other, Susanna. They're all seated on board an aircraft. They're all wearing face masks. And that is, we need to get back to some degree of normality. You know, we can't live our lives sitting isolated at home. That's the only way to be safe. We are going to have to go back to work. People are going to take trains, the London Underground and planes. Today we carry more than 100,000 passengers to and from the UK. But by wearing face masks, by making it mandatory, we will not allow you to board the aircraft unless you're wearing your own face mask, rigorous hand hygiene, disinfecting all the aircraft surfaces. We are ensuring as best we can. We're certainly minimising the risk of spread of COVID-19.
How devastating? How devastating is this pandemic for the airline industry? Yesterday alone, Airbus laying off 15,000 people. We saw EasyJet saying they're going to actually close the bases at Stansted, Southend and Newcastle. I mean, these are huge, huge moments for the industry, and yet they're coming thick and fast, aren't they?
And they're going to get worse, Piers. I mean, the airline industry has suffered the worst downturn we have ever in it's a 100-year history of this industry. And to put it in some context, after 9/11, which was the last great big shock to the airline industry, flights were grounded for about 4 days. So far with this pandemic, we've been grounded for almost 4 months across the UK and Europe. So this is historic. We have never gone through a downturn like this before. And it's not just the airline industry. The tourism industry in Britain, the hotels, the restaurants, the leisure outlets, critically depend on us bringing hundreds of thousands of European visitors to the UK. We need to get this industry moving again in July and August. We're doing so safely. We're following all the guidelines. And passengers can book their Ryanair flights today, safe in the knowledge that we'll be looking after them well and they can travel safely with no risk of COVID-19.
OK. Michael O'Leary, good luck to you. You know, no one wants to see this, the devastation in the airline industry. We've got to try and get going. I completely agree with you. I think, again, the mixed messages from the government are incredibly unhelpful. Even now, we were told days ago these air bridges will be announced by now. We haven't heard. People can't do anything with any certainty, but, you know, we've got to get on with it.